Hey y'all, I'm back. I told you I'd get part 2 out as quickly as I can, so that's what I'm doing. This section will take you from the initial epoxy coat over the glitter through the decal application process. And I kind of show you how to cut the decal to fit the cut better, or at least how I did it. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so here's my cup with the first coat of epoxy, and it's looking good so far. Now I have not sanded this yet, but I will sand it before I actually apply the decal. Right now what I want to do is measure to find out how tall that I want my decal. So I have my little handy tool measuring tool from Expressions. I love their stuff. And I'm going to find where I want the very tip top, the highest point on my haunted house to be, and just the general area. It doesn't have to be exact. And I'll put my 0 wherever I want that to be. The top of my house, that is. And then I'll measure all the way down to the bottom of the cup. And with this one, I measured, it's right at 5.5 inches from this point to the very, very bottom down here. But I'm gonna go ahead and add, I'm gonna make it like about 5 3/4, because you can always trim if you have too much vinyl, but being too short is more of a problem. So now I'm gonna move into my software and make some edits to the cut file, and I'm gonna show you how I do that. Okay, so as you can see, I have my file already pulled into my design space, and this is the Silhouette Studio Business Edition. That's what I run. So for some of you, this may not apply if you don't use Silhouette software, but I just wanted to go through and give you guys a quick rundown on how I did this. I'm sure the same technique can be applied on the Cricut software. This is the original file right here. As you can see, there's no cut lines around it. It's been brought in completely untouched. This is the file that I've already adjusted. This is the one that I used on my cup. So this is the parameters that I'm trying to get to. As you can see, I've shortened this. There was quite a bit more space on this end with that tree, but since I couldn't really think of a good way to make that tree work, since it's clearly been cut in half there, and there's no real way to seam that in. So what I did, I took the knife tool and just cut that tree out completely. And I'm going to have to zoom in a little to be able to see what I'm doing, but I just started at the bottom, made, ooh, that's kind of wonky, made a straight line, and I don't know, some of you may know this already, but if you get it to where there is no number down at the bottom of your red line, that means it is perfectly straight and you won't be getting a wonky cut that way. So I'm going to make my cut. Okay, so now you can see my cut line here at the bottom where I have cut my image. What that does though is it makes this entire image, all of these pieces are now independent of each other. So I can move any piece of this that I want to. See, for instance, my bat moves. And so would anything that's not attached to this big part here. So what I want to do is take the part that I cut and delete that, get rid of it. But now I need to go in and group all of these image particles, or whatever you want to call them, pieces together. So I will edit, select all, and I'm going to do shift, click this to deselect this so that all that I have now are these pieces. Pretend this isn't even here because that's what we're trying to accomplish and that won't be on your screen. So now I'm going to go left click, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to group all of that together. And now that makes that one solid grouped up image. Okay, so I'm going to take a look here. This is 5 and looks like almost 5.5 inches from this top part down to the bottom. Now that is probably enough room for the measurement that I made earlier, but I want more space to be at the bottom, like this one, so that I have room to put the zombies. You don't have to do that on this if you don't want the zombies toward the bottom, because like I said, this original image is probably tall enough, but I wanted to add some length down here because I wanted more space, more black at the bottom. So I went and drew a simple rectangle. And I scoot it to where it just touches the bottom of the image. And I want to get it straight here. Okay. And let's see how far off I am. So I could go down just a little bit more. And, you know, I don't think I measured anything to begin with. I just sort of eyeballed it. And when I think I did have extra at the bottom that I just trimmed off. And I'm going to show you how to do that too. It's super easy. So now I've got this rectangle at the bottom. I'm going to color it in black. And then I'm going to select, I'm going to hit shift and select so that it selects the image that I want, the house and the rectangle. Then I'm going to hit weld. Maybe. Maybe not. Oh, I've got it not responding. All of my software has been acting so weird. Okay, I have no idea what it did. I guess when I welded, it unwelded, it ungrouped everything. Okay, so easy fix. I'll just go group. Alright, so now I have my exaggerated bottom and my witch and all my house and all that. So, also, I have realized that 12 inches is perfect to fit around the cup. And what I will do, you can do it here if you want, but I take a pair of scissors. I'll go ahead and cut this just as it is. Take a pair of scissors and I trim before I put it on to the cup. Like I'll cut it into sections so that I can get it on without it acting crazy and sticking where it shouldn't and all of that. But you could make the cuts here if you wanted to, but that's just completely up to you. So now I have my haunted house. Oh, yeah. And the reason it's acting like it's got this space here because there's a bunch of little like dots over here that it's picking up. So you don't have to do that. Anyway, that's all the edits that I made. What I'll do now is go in and trace it so that it puts the cut lines around it, and then I'll have my final product will look like this. So now I'm just going to send this to my machine and get it cut, and I will pick up right before I'm placing the actual decals. Okay, so I have my cup here and I have sanded it, and I got all the little rough spots where maybe the glitter stuck up a little higher than it should have. And once I sanded it fairly well, I washed it down with acetone. That will prevent any of the dust from the sanding getting trapped underneath your epoxy, because that will give you like a foggy look. And if you're going for that, well, I don't know. I would always wash it with acetone because that could be unpredictable. So, and here is my image that I cut with my silhouette. And I will be honest, there's some pretty intense weeding on this down in the grass, some of the limbs, but it's not bad. It's one of the easier ones. It might take, 15 minutes at the most, maybe 20, but it's not terrible. I've definitely weeded worse images than this one. And so now what I'm gonna do is show you how I will take this image and I will cut it in sections. And I'm going to start with the house first, because that's the focal point, so I want to make sure that I get that right. And let me get my stuff and I will show you how to do it. Okay, I want to apologize, guys. I know that my camera is a little bit bouncy, and that is because of the tripod that I've got right now. I'm going to have to get me a better one eventually, so I will do my best to make sure that I don't bump into this to make it any more wobbly than it has to be, but I apologize in case it makes you dizzy when you watch this. But and you can do it one of two ways. You can go ahead and put your transfer tape on and then cut it, which is what I'm gonna do, or you could potentially apply the transfer paper to the individual sections, but it's just really, it's 6 in one, half a dozen of the other. So I get this transfer tape here from Expressions Vinyl. It's just their clear, sticky transfer tape. It's not super strong hold, but I've never had a problem. I mean, you might not be able to pick up some of the more specialty vinyls, like I don't know how well it would do on the rough texture glitter vinyl, but I really like this one. I've got a little bit heavier duty one too for when I use the heavier technique, or the heavier textures, but I'm just going to lay this on, smooth it out because the wrinkles cause problems, and get my little spreader tool, smoother tool, smooth everything out as best I can. Okay. Trying to get some of those air bubbles out. Okay, so the most important part is the house. So that's the part I want to do first. And I'm just going to take my scissors and cut a straight line. See, I don't know how much of that you can actually see. And I try not to cut into anything that's going to be too noticeable, and I'm just going to go right around that little bat. So I may put him somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside for in later use, and then I'm going to cut the other side, because that probably could be laid pretty easily, but it's the smaller vinyl that you have to work with, the smaller your space, the easier you can get it to lay flat. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this pretty close to that roof line. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I stay in my camera view. I'm going to have to get better at this business. I know, but okay. Now I'm going to figure out the position, and I just kind of want it as centered as possible. Peel off my backing paper, and it all comes up. Make sure that it's good, and then I'm going to lay this on. I'm just going to, you know, eyeball it. I'm not going to, let me see if I can fix this a little bit so you can see better. Okay. Again, I am not like a super precise person, so I'm just going to give it my best shot at getting centered. Also, I want to add that I don't want any of this green to show through this window. There's like a low window right here, and if I can't do that, if I have to show that green under there, I can always paint in the windows. That's what I did with the first one. If you'll notice, the windows on the first one that I posted, they're purple inside there, and I glittered that with just a matching purple. But you can actually take and paint that in if you need to, or just if you want to. But I did not with the other one, so we'll see how this one goes. Sometimes, because I don't measure, you know, sometimes things get a little bit switched up or changed from one cup to the next. I'm going to hold my mouth just right. This is what I need, one of those like stands that everybody else is using. Let's see. Try this. Maybe this will help me. Okay. So I'm going to lay this down, and I have found that with these bigger pieces of vinyl, if you start from the center and work your way out, you'll have better luck at keeping it from creasing. And sometimes you just can't keep it from creasing. I mean, there's just sometimes that's going to happen. So I'm pressing it down and getting it stuck to the cup. And another thing that's good to do is to trim it. So like, I don't want to crease this right here, so I'm going to trim that. Okay, and now you can see the bat, like where that is going to go ahead and lay flat. And that gives this one space to stay lifted for a minute. It's not going to automatically go down in the wrong place because I pushed this down. So a lot of this is just, you know, you kind of have to hold your mouth just right, is what my mom and my granny always say. Just hold your mouth just right. And just kind of gently push. And, you know, sometimes you have to kind of stretch your vinyl just a little bit to get it to fit, because that is the way you have to do it. Okay, now that side's pretty down pretty well. Now I'm going to move over here. I want to get a crease on that window. And sometimes, you know, creasing happens. You just have to kind of work with it. Okay. Keep pressing. Stretch that out there. And be careful not to permanently press down a piece in the wrong spot if you can. If you can help it. Just kind of, you don't want to keep a constant watch on all of these little peaks and windows. Make sure they're going where they're supposed to. And this I haven't mentioned, but this is also permanent vinyl. It's the 651, I think it is. And so once I got it pretty well where I want it, I can start to pull up my transfer tape. And just pull slowly and watch closely as you're doing it, because if you notice something, you know, starting to pull up, you can fix that before it rips your vinyl. That's where I made that cut so that I could get that to lay flatter. Okay. And I'll throw that transfer tape away. Sometimes I hang on to it, use it a time or two, but not on this one because I've already got all the other stuff taped off too. So, and I was not able to keep myself out of that green, so I will paint these windows. Okay, now that's pretty good area. And so now what I'm going to do is just continue to do this all the way around the cup, and I'll make sure that I am able to overlap the next piece over this just a hair so that you can't see the green in between. And I will keep it, and you can kind of, I mean, you don't have to lay it out exactly like it is in the landscape if you don't want to, but it's easier that way, I think. Okay, so this time, I'm going to make my cut right about here, but I'm not going to cut into my tree. I'm going to go right around my tree and up because I don't want to I don't want there to be a spot where the vinyl makes a seam right there. So I'm going to get really close to the tree, but I'm not going to cut through it. And I'm not going to use my little bat right now either. I'm going to leave him a part of the bigger piece. So that's kind of a small piece, but you know, the smaller the piece is, the easier it is to work with, in my opinion. Okay, peel that off, and then I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to try to get it, you know, as close to even as possible. But with this one, the beauty of it is that you don't have to get it exact. And you want to overlap it just enough. You want to get it laid down, and this one is small enough that it's easy just to go from, you know, left to right. Get fence posts down there, and at this point, oh, hang on, get that to lay down better. There we go. There again, you just peel slowly. And make sure you're not pulling up any vinyl that you don't want to pull up. And if you look, you've got a lip hangover at the bottom. So, you know, you won't be able to get it on there perfectly straight and see how this is uneven. That's the whole point of cutting it into sections, because you might need this section to, you know, lay a little bit different at it from a little bit different angle than something else. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same thing with all the way around. Right here, you see how that tree goes behind that cross? You just kind of, I have found it easier to make my cut here so that I don't have to cut through that limb. But if you had to cut through that limb, you could always just cut off this little part right here and act like that limb was never there. I mean, just kind of, you can play with it, make it however you want, really. And I'm just gonna work with the bottom part of the image again. I'm not gonna get the witch or the bats just yet. They will go on, but I will place them a little more strategically after. Oh, I accidentally left that bat on there. So now I've got to try not to lose him. Keep him there. Okay. And it looks a little bit like, I mean, it's like a wonky sort of piece, but it's so much easier to put them on like this than to try and do the whole thing all at one time. I don't even know if it would be possible, because I know for a fact if I tried to do the whole thing at one time, I would have creases like crazy. I hope that you guys can see what I'm doing. My light is kind of bright, glaring off of that plastic too. Okay. Just eyeballing it a little. And I don't like that. Okay. And I'm just going to gently lay that tree in. Let it lay down. And so I've kind of got a spot here where I'm afraid that I'm going to end up with a crease. So I'm just going to cut into, I don't want to weight it down. Cut into that empty space a little ways to allow the vinyl to lay down a little bit better. And again, we're talking about a spooky, haunted looking tree. So if you have some branches going different directions, it's going to be okay. Then pay attention to the rest of your image too, because you don't want to accidentally tear it. And I'm afraid what's going to happen with this transfer tape being way over here, that's going to cause this end of my vinyl to be in the wrong spot. So I'm going to go ahead and start to peel this off so that this doesn't affect that. I'm just going to peel it up to where it's more even with this stuff. Okay, so now that's all pulled up, and this has no bearing over where anything else is going to lay. And I can even trim it off completely to see to it that it doesn't continue to stick to my tree branches. Can't tell you how many times I have accidentally ripped something because I just wasn't paying attention from one side of my vinyl to the next. And that is frustrating, especially after you spend all the time weeding, cutting and weeding. And now I'm just trying to get those to lay down as flat as possible without creases. And then I'm going to peel it off. Whoa, I knew I was going to do that. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, and sometimes I've noticed, if you look really closely, I've got a branch or two. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe. Right here. It's not focusing. It's keeping it blurry. Anyway, right in here, is a branch or two that's not laying flat, and that needs to be fixed. So I'm going to peel it up a little bit and then just let it lay naturally. Just pick it up and let it lay back down, all on its own. Anything that's sticking up. Okay. And see how much difference, I mean, like, see how crooked that is down there? This is why I like this method better. But no worries, because we will get this covered. And now we only have this little bit of a spot left. So, the two pieces that I have left are this and this. And I like this better, because I like the tree. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to cut the bats off of it. They're staying on they are all staying on the transfer tape and on the backing. I just don't want to, like, mess with them at this moment. So now I'm going to pull this up. And I am just going to eyeball it one more time. To do my best to make this as even as I can. And as matchy-matchy as I can on both sides. Try to get all your little grass pieces to lay down. And then just slowly peel that off. Done. And again, I have a couple little pieces of branch right down there, right here, that doesn't want to lay down naturally. So I'm just going to pop it up, and that one's attached to that bat, so I'm going to cut it because I don't want to pull him off. Just lay that down. Sometimes that vinyl stretches and then it doesn't want to lay where it's supposed to lay. So you have to kind of work with it. Sweet talk it. Okay. Okay. Now, this is what we're left with. My house is trying to come up right there. Make sure you press that down good. And if you don't want to do this so high up, like if you wanted to leave the moon off of it, or if you wanted to just do a smaller moon that was closer to the bottom, then you wouldn't have, like, it's just hard to get the vinyl to lay down on the curve right there. So if you have just, like, if you only let this window go up to the curve, you've only got this much vinyl that has to lay on that curve. And so it's a lot easier to keep it in place. But this has, I mean, with this cup, if you're wanting to do this cup, the details are what make it. So you have to deal with the issue of getting that vinyl to stay where you put it. But once you get that first coat of epoxy on there, if, you know, even if it does pop up a little bit, you'll be able to sand it down and make it pretty. So all the way around. And now you can't really see any seams. I mean, we know they're there. There's one right there. But you can't, I mean, you can't see it. All the way around. Nothing, no green. So we're in good shape there. Now what I'm going to do is, not peel, but I'm going to trim this piece at the bottom. And now I'm going to go around it, make sure none of my little vinyl trimmings are stuck on top, because that wouldn't be good. And there is my house. So now the fun part, or the other fun part, is figuring out where I want my little bats and my witch to go. And so I really like, this is a high point here, and then you have another high point here on the tree. So I kind of usually like to put my witch in between there, because that's sort of a blank space. But you know, if you wanted to put your Happy Halloween there, or a name, or you know, whatever, I mean, really and truly, the sky's the limit. You can do anything that you wanted to, which is the reason I love doing cups so much. You're never going to do two that are exactly alike. I get bored making the same thing over and over again. And I'm just going to figure out a good place. And you know what? I think on this one, because of that black background, or it's not black, but that grayish, I think I'm going to actually put her more on this orange so that she's able to be seen better. She's flying home. Put her little bat buddy right there too. So see, there's a little bat right there beside her. Now, I don't know, these bats probably, they're not going to show up super well, but when it's in your hand, of course, I mean, you guys know this as well as I know it, that pictures and videos never do these cups justice. Like, that's the one thing I can't make people like understand. Because if you just see the picture of it, you really have no idea. Especially when glitter's involved, it never really looks the same. It's one of the reasons I decided to do a vendor show recently, so that, you know, people can actually see the cups and see how well that goes over. I'm going to put another little bat right over here. And my last little bat. Oh no, I have two more. There's not much going on back here. So let's put them back here. Just last one. Put him here. Okay. Alright. Now, normally, I would have already cut out the zombies that I did on the bottom, but I have been struggling trying to figure out what color would be best. So I think now that I see the black on this gray, grayish sky color, that I'm going to go with like a silver glitter on the zombies at the bottom. But see how that green is mostly covered? I mean, it's just an accent, really. It's not a focal point. And so it really, I mean, like, you don't have to do it. I just like it. So now what I'm going to do is get my silver glitter vinyl and I'm going to cut the zombies. And I do that the exact same way that I showed you with this one. I just put it in to my Silhouette Studio software, trace it if I need to, and cut it out. Okay, now I've got that cut. And again, this was just a simple file that I found on Google and traced. So I don't know exactly, I mean, there's no way to tell you exactly where to find it. Just do a Google image search for it. And you do this the same way. Obviously, the guy in the middle, the taller zombie, is the main focal point. So I'm going to trim this one. And you don't have to be very precise with this ball because it's so simple. There's very little detail, so that's a good thing. And I decided to go gray because I don't have any silver glitter vinyl anymore. I don't know, I need to order some. So here, peel that off, and then I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to figure out where exactly that I want his head to be. And it's a pretty good idea sometimes, I mean, for this part to measure that, and I forgot to mention that a while ago, but you'd measure this the same way you did for the house, just wherever you want his head to be. You just measure from his head, because it's the highest point, to the bottom of the cup. This one is a little bit bigger than what is necessary, but you can always cut away vinyl. It's harder to add it later. And I'm just going to find a good spot where I think is feasible for him to be, and then just lay it down. And again, it's just easier to cut in sections so that you're not having to worry about getting it flat. Also, I decided I didn't want to paint in the windows, so I just put me a little piece of black vinyl right there to cover up the green that was showing through on that window. Because I really like the orange coming through the window. I'm just going to do this all the way around. And cut my sections smaller as I go. And I found that 12 inches is just about perfect to go all the way around the bottom of the cup. You'd have to have a little bit more up here, just because it's a bigger diameter, but 12 inches in length for these decals works. There we go. Sorry about the bumping. I promise I'm gonna get a better setup before I do too many more of these. I didn't realize how much work went into just making a tutorial. I took that for granted, I'll tell you. That kicked my rear end. I don't understand why everybody does lives. It makes more sense. I get worried though, because I want to at least be able to make sure that I don't look totally stupid. But it is a lot of work. And again, I've got some hanging over on the end, but that's easily trimmed. And I don't think I didn't use this tree last time because it kind of interferes with the tree that's already there, in my opinion. So I just made sure and left it out. So we're going to use this guy right now. And I'm just going to start, let's see. You kind of want the ground levels to be the same. So like if I decided to put him, this one here, I'd have to keep in mind that I got to get my ground level even here. So I don't want to stick it way up here and have it look like it, you know, jagged like that. Like there's no, it needs to be a gradual thing, or people, you know, that's people will be able to tell that you seamed it. If you get it down here, it hangs over here, but we're going to trim that, and so that looks a lot better and more even. Okay. And see, if we had done this in one big giant piece, there's no way for you to make the kind of adjustments that need to be made in order to keep it looking even and flow well. And see, now here we've got a little bit of an issue because there's not a lot of space here, but you do have a kind of a big jump right here. So you just have to play with it to find something that works. And I'm gonna cut this tree out. My cup doesn't want to stay still. Okay. So I'm just gonna get everything but the tree. And I don't really even need to have another gravestone because it might be a little busy to get too much. And this one also has sort of a natural incline right there. So going, you know, from here to here is going to make more sense. And I'm just going to lean it upward. And so now that goes like a little bit uphill and it all fits. It looks like a mess at the bottom because it's all different. It's jagged and all the way around, but that's what you gotta do. That's the good thing. It's good that you can do that, because if you can't, then all your stuff's gonna look crooked. It's gotta be crooked somewhere, I guess. Oh yeah, these scissors work better. Oh, good Lord. Sorry. I don't want to make anybody dizzy. So no, I kind of was like, ooh, it shakes worse than I thought. So I'm just trimming this off the same way. A couple of things that I have learned through this process also is never ever ever try to put a decal over rough texture. So if your glitter still has still has quite a bit of a rough texture to it, your decals will come up even if you spray and seal. The best place to put a decal is a smooth surface. So if you have to sand it, do that. If you have to re-epoxy it to do another coat, do that. Just don't put a vinyl on rough texture. Okay, now see that's all trimmed off. And you can't see it's not sticking up anywhere. Flush. And make sure you don't have any air bubbles that you didn't already notice. Lay that vinyl down better. I have to keep kind of messing with this center part right here because it keeps wanting to peel up a little bit, get air trapped under it, and so just pressing it as hard as I can with my thumbs. And before I put it on the turner to put epoxy on it, I'll make sure that I do the same thing, so hopefully it will hold. I haven't had a problem with any of them pulling up yet. So, okay. Now that's done. And the last part, I nearly forgot it, is the Happy Halloween. This is the one I mentioned in the last tutorial, or the last part. Happy Halloween. Doing this one in metallic orange, and these little bats are cut out of black. So I'm gonna put this in this open spot between the witch here and the top of the tree that's here. And so I'm gonna have to move these little bats a little bit, but I don't think that they will mind, hopefully. And if I stretch them or break them or tear them, I've got more. So in fact, there's even some on the file itself, so we will not be running short of bats. But I peeled carefully, it came off. So and for the time being, I'm just going to stick them back down to a piece of backing paper, and I'll go back and reapply them in different spots. I think I will leave that one there, though. And man alive, if you don't have a tool like this and you're weeding, you need to get a tool like this. It came from Hobby Lobby, and this one was actually in a set of tools that you use to make dolls. There was all kinds of different things in there to make the sculpted doll faces, I think is what it was. I've had it forever, but I started using it a whole lot more when I started doing stuff with my with the vinyl, because it's so awesome for weeding. It's really, this wood in particular is really sharp. I bought this one at Hobby Lobby, and it's not bad. It's a little bit bigger than that, and it's not quite as sharp either. That's a little bit blunt. But I'm going to trim this backing paper down just a bit. Now, make sure I get a good stick. Peel it up. And place it on. Okie dokie. Now that's on. It's kind of hard to read. But it's not. I mean, I think it's pretty. It kind of goes with the moon. So I don't know. You tell me what you guys think if you like that. Again, different color scheme, but it just goes to show, I mean, really and truly, you can go any direction you want to. Sky's the limit with these things. And I saw one, I'm going to do it eventually, but I haven't got the right color glitter yet. But I saw one that was done in like, but it was painted with alcohol inks. But it was like really dark bluish purple up here. And then it kind of gradient, it had that gradient look, but then it went down to like lime green. So, and then back down here it was like into a lighter purple. So it was like dark purple, lime green, lighter purple. It was really, really pretty. But it wasn't glitter, it was just alcohol ink. A little more masculine, I guess. And now I'm just kind of like throwing these bats on any place that I think it needs a little something. You can barely see them when they're on that darker glitter. But there you have it. Now this is ready to go on the turner as soon as I want to get it on there. So you guys watched me do that already, and I'm not going to bore you with all those details again, but yeah, so this is pretty well the tutorial. So thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to holler at me. I've got my phone with me all the time, so if I don't answer, then just send me another message, but I'll probably answer. But yeah, so any questions, comments, concerns, just holler at me. Thank you guys.